Have you ever felt like you were standing before the door of a dream, yet didn't know how to open it? Stop. Take a deep breath. And remember this, the key was never out there. It has always been in your hands, the very words you speak each day. Long before Oprah spoke of belief, before the law of attraction became a TikTok trend, there was Florence Scovel Shinn, a painter, a teacher, and a spiritual pioneer. She lived it, she proved it, and she taught it, the sacred power of the spoken word. In a time when women were seldom heard, Florence didn't shout. She simply spoke, and the universe listened. She didn't teach people to wish. She showed them how to command reality with faith and aligned vibration. While the world still stumbled through the fog of intuition, Florence followed hers through loss, through poverty, through misunderstanding, and shaped a life that millions now study. You'll find no trace of self-pity in her words. Instead, she wrote, "One must prepare for the thing one has asked for, even though there is no sign of it in sight." Picture a woman stripped of everything, family, finances, social standing, yet walking through each day with calm certainty, as if the miracle had already come. Not because she was delusional, but because she knew the law. Did you know, on one quiet evening, Florence sat in her room, closed her eyes, and affirmed, "I now enter my promised land under grace." And then a letter arrived, a job offer appeared, an invitation to teach, emerged, all in uncanny alignment with what she had spoken into being. You see, this isn't a fairy tale. This is the truth of vibration, and Florence lived it. When you learn to align with the frequency of what you desire, life is no longer random. It's not waiting for life to be kind to you. It's about declaring it, and life responds in kind. So if you're in a season of delayed doubt or doors that seem shut, maybe it's not that the world isn't listening. Maybe you just haven't spoken the right words. Not to the world, but to yourself and to the universe. Florence once wrote, "Your word is your wand." A wand doesn't need permission. It only needs someone bold enough to believe they are worthy of the magic. So what are you preparing for, a hesitant future or a decided present? Remember, you are not here to ask permission to live the life you desire. You are here to declare it. And that's how Florence Scovel Shinn didn't just dream her miraculous life, she called it in word by word. Now walk with me. Let's uncover the 4 core principles that transformed Florence's life. Forgotten by many, but when practiced by you, they will bring your world back into divine vibration. Are you ready? There's one truth. Florence Scovel Shinn realized early in her journey something most people spend a lifetime trying to grasp. You don't have to deserve what you dream of. You simply have to align with it. In her time, the early 20th century, Florence had lost nearly everything the world considered valuable. After her divorce, she had no assets, no title, no safe path to cling to. But instead of collapsing, Florence made a choice that the world around her saw as madness. She chose to believe in spiritual law. On cold winter nights, stomach growling rent overdue, Florence would sit quietly with a small notebook. She didn't beg. She didn't complain. She wrote affirmations, declarations, vibrational codes for the soul. One of her most frequent affirmations was, "I now enter my promised land under grace and in perfect ways." She wrote it as if it were already true, even as debt notices sat at the door, and her wallet was empty. And then, the miracles began. Not once, but again and again. An old friend reached out, offering funds to publish her first book, The Game of Life and How to Play It. An anonymous student left an envelope with the exact amount for rent. A teaching invitation arrived from a New York group she had never contacted. You could call it coincidence. Florence called it the law in action, the response of the universe to a frequency sent with clarity. What Florence wanted us to know was this: waiting is the energy of delay. Acting and knowing that is the energy of creation. Many of us have heard of faith, but we often treat it like a vague emotional hope. Florence was different. To her, faith wasn't a feeling, it was a posture of standing tall in an unseen truth, no matter what the outer world says. When you live in the vibration of what you desire, not as fantasy but as fact, you stop being a seeker. You become a declarer. And that is the pivot, from victim to creator, from waiting to wielding. But Florence didn't just live this for herself. She taught it to thousands. From struggling artists to heartbroken housewives to businessmen on the brink of collapse. One of her students, a young woman with only $8 to her name, came to Florence in desperation. Florence didn't pity her. She smiled and said, "We're going to multiply that $8, not by tricks, but by law." She guided the woman to see her wallet bursting with money and to repeat, "My wallet is a magic wallet, it never runs dry." Days later, the woman received an unexpected gift of over $6,000 more than she'd ever dared to imagine. You see, Florence didn't teach wishful dreaming. She taught a spiritual state where you no longer live by circumstance, but by vibration. And she was living proof of it. If you've read this far and something inside you whispers, "I used to know this, but I forgot," then welcome. We're remembering together. So now share with us, what are you ready to declare to the universe? Write it below. I decide. Let this community hold your intention with energy, with blessing, with real response. In the next section, we'll go deeper into one of Florence's most powerful principles. Your word is your wand. Not just a phrase, but a tool to program reality. And you'll learn how to wield it, not for prayer, but for direction. Florence once wrote, "Your word is your wand. It can free you or bind you, depending on how you use it." If there's one thing Florence wanted you to understand, not just with your mind, but with every cell of your soul, it's this. Every word you speak is a command to the universe, not a wish, not a vague intention, but a specific directive the universe will set out to fulfill, whether you're conscious of it or not. Imagine this, you are holding a magic wand. But if every day you speak words like, "I'm not sure I can do it," "Maybe I don't have what it takes," "I'm afraid to fail," that wand will faithfully carry out those instructions. Not because you're unworthy, but because you've programmed delay into your reality. Florence didn't speak of this in theory. She lived it. She proved it through every difficult phase of her life. One of her most striking examples was when she faced the very real threat of not being able to afford to stay in New York. She didn't knock on doors asking for loans. She didn't plead with fate. She walked through Washington Square Park, lifted her head, breathed deeply, and declared, "Delay and lack now dissolve. I step into the divine flow of unlimited supply." That phrase acted like a vibrational reset button. And just days later, she received a letter from a former student, someone writing to thank her for changing their life, with a financial gift enclosed that covered all her needs. This wasn't luck, this was response. Because Florence didn't say, "I hope someone helps me." She spoke clearly, decisively, as if the universe had already heard her and was already delivering. Florence's students saw extraordinary results too. One woman, after years of heartbreak from infertility, was guided by Florence to affirm daily, "The divine child has chosen me as its mother, and I welcome this new life with love and grace." 3 months later, what doctors had declared impossible became real. You see, Florence didn't possess magic. She understood the law, she lived by the law, and she taught the law to all who would listen. She explained that your words are the first vibrational blueprint you imprint on the universe. If you don't control your words, you can't control your reality. She emphasized, never speak what you do not want to see manifest. In today's world where social media is flooded with complaint, anxiety, and sarcasm, Florence's wisdom has never been more urgent. We cannot expect a beautiful reality while releasing chaotic vibrations from our own lips every day. Florence once shared about a student who constantly struggled at work. The woman had a habit of saying, "I hate this job. Nothing ever goes right for me." Florence gently guided her to replace it completely with, "I am doing work I love, I am well paid, and I advance every day." Not just repeating it, but believing it, feeling it as though it were already real. Within weeks, a new job came, higher pay, and more importantly, a completely renewed inner state. So, what are you saying to yourself each day? Pause for a moment and write below. The words I choose to create my reality are: let us make this space a birthplace for new vibrations, words of healing, empowerment, and awakening. And if the spoken word is this powerful, why do so many people still struggle to see results? In the next section, we'll uncover a rarely understood truth. The universe doesn't just hear the words, it hears the frequency inside those words. It's not just what you say, but the state you're in when you say it that becomes the guiding vibration of your reality. Do you know one of the mystical secrets Florence Scovel Shinn emphasized again and again? It's not just about speaking what you desire. It's about living as if you've already received it. Not waiting for the miracle to arrive before you feel joy, gratitude, or peace, but rehearsing that state with every cell of your being in advance. Florence called it preparing without proof, because to her true faith was vibrational practice, not circumstantial permission. When no one believes in you, when no one gives you a chance, when there's zero evidence that your dream is on its way, that's exactly when you rehearse. Florence shared how every morning before stepping out of her tiny room, she would stand before the mirror and smile as if preparing for the biggest teaching engagement of her life. Even if no one had invited her, even if she had no students, even if no book had yet been published. Still, she chose to dress with care, hold the posture of one who serves the light, and walk with peace as if she already had it all. Once a close friend asked, "Why are you still acting like this? Didn't you just lose your job?" Florence replied, "Exactly. If I don't live in the vibration of being guided, how can grace find its way to guide me?" It may sound like nonsense to the logical mind, but Florence didn't live by logic. She lived by spiritual law. She didn't say, "I hope to be invited to teach one day." She said, "I have prepared for what I've asked for, even if there's no sign of it yet." She had her lesson plans ready. Her speaking outfits pressed, her voice warmed up, as if the invitation had already arrived. And it did arrive. A small group asked her to speak at a gathering in Manhattan. Fewer than 10 people attended, but Florence entered the room as if she were addressing 1,000. And in that very posture, she ignited the energy in every heart. From there, more invitations came. Then her first book was printed. Then her workshops began to ripple outward. None of it began with reality changing. It all began with inner reality transforming. Florence taught her students, "You're not pretending, you're rehearsing faith." Because faith isn't something you have when things go right. It's something you become in all conditions. One woman once told Florence, "I say positive affirmations every day, but nothing happens." Florence asked, "Have you felt as if they were already true?" The woman fell silent. Florence gently concluded, "If the inner feeling is still fear, then the words are just empty shells. You must walk as one who already has feeling, posture, state of being. These are the roots of creation. Picture this, someone saying, 'I am wealthy,' while their hands tremble, eyes dart with anxiety, and heart pounds from fear of debt, versus someone who says nothing but walks with calm breaths, deeply lives simply and gratefully. That vibration alone declares it all." Florence didn't want you to become someone who just talks the talk. She wanted you to embody the very essence of what you're calling in. So today, what are you ready to rehearse? Write it below. I live as if I already am. Don't hold back. This is your space to practice belief alongside souls learning to align on this journey. In the next section, we'll dive into a truly vital key, what Florence called the gatekeeper of all miracles decision. Not hoping, but commanding. Not waiting for signs, but choosing the vibration and never wavering from it. There's a sentence Florence Scovel Shinn repeated in nearly every one of her teachings, a quiet reminder powerful enough to shake any soul waiting in limbo. One must prepare for the thing one has asked for, even though there is no sign of it in sight. Let that sink in. You've asked the universe for something, a new opportunity, a healing relationship, the right path forward. But after a few days with no sign, you begin to wonder, is it really coming? You hesitate, you pull back. You say, maybe I'll wait a little longer. But Florence didn't. She taught that unconditional action is the highest form of faith. Not wait, then act, but act as if and you shall see. She compared it to preparing a room for a cherished guest, even if you haven't seen them coming up the street. You still clean every corner. You still lay out fresh sheets. You still light the candles and prepare the tea, because you've decided they are coming. To Florence, your dream, whether it's success, love, abundance, or healing, is a sacred guest. And the way to welcome it is by aligning your state and your actions today. Consider this real story from her life. Before Florence was well known, before her books were printed, before her name meant anything, she handwrote motivational notes and used her own money to print and hand them to strangers on the street. Someone asked her, "Why go to all that trouble? No one even knows who you are." She smiled and said, "They don't know me yet, but I know myself." Florence didn't wait for the world to validate her before she began to shine. She made the decision first that her energy, her message, her presence were already real, and the world would catch up in time. That energy of decision is what creates true magnetism. And here's the miracle. Everything you're waiting for is simply waiting for your decision. How many times have you come close to what you desired, but a moment of hesitation pulled you out of alignment? You've been living in maybe a not yet, let's see. But you can't build a house on trembling ground. You need to anchor yourself to one clear place, and that place is called decision. Florence once said, "Indecision is the destroyer of all miracles. You cannot attract what you have not truly claimed as your own." Imagine a film director offers you the role of your dreams, and you say, "I'm still thinking about it." What do you think happens? Hesitation doesn't just delay opportunity. It signals that you're not ready. The universe doesn't punish, it simply responds. And here lies the hardest part, the challenge Florence left for her students. Dare to decide even when the world says otherwise. Dare to say, "I am worthy," even after a failure. Dare to say, "It's on its way," even when you're standing still. Dare to say, "It is mine," even when your wallet is empty. Because the truth is, if you wait for everything to change, before you decide, you've given your power away to the external. Florence didn't live that way. She put faith in the driver's seat. She taught that you are the drummer and reality is the dancer. Now is the time to choose your rhythm again. Right below a decision, you've delayed something your soul is now ready to claim. Type it out. I decide. Let these hundreds, thousands of decisions rise together into a new wave of direction. You see, Florence didn't wait for the world to hand her a miracle. She generated it. Not with tricks, but with alignment. And if you want to know how to sustain that vibration, even when the outside world is silent, then the final section will be the spiritual gift you won't want to miss. If you're at the beginning when nothing feels clear yet, if you're holding a dream the world hasn't yet recognized, if you've failed, doubted, been dismissed, remember Florence Scovel Shinn once stood exactly where you stand. She lost everything, no fame, no platform, no one believed in her. And from that place she began to write, page by page, line by line, word by word, anchored in faith. And you know what? She didn't write to get published. She wrote because she believed the message was worthy of being alive. Believe first, act first, and then the miracle follows. Florence once said, "You do not wait to believe after you see. You believe and then you see." So if today your heart still feels uncertain, still waiting for evidence, let this video be your new anchor point, a place to realign, a place to remember. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You just need you to believe in you. And here's a small action you can begin tomorrow, just 1 minute each morning, yet it will shift your entire frequency for the day. Write down 3 affirmations as if your dream is already done. Examples: everything I need has already been divinely arranged for me. I walk today as one who has fully received what I once desired. I am the living embodiment of the miracle I once prayed for. Write them and feel them. Don't just repeat words. Let your body, your eyes, your smile speak them too. Now is the time to transmit that energy into the world. Comment below. I am living from the vibration of... You might write, I am living from the vibration of love, freedom, abundance, creativity. Let each word you share be a message to yourself and to the universe. And if this video stirred something deep within, you don't let it pass like a fleeting wave of inspiration. Click subscribe so that anytime you need to reconnect with your power, we'll meet again right here. In this sacred space of trust creation and awakening, Florence once said, "You must prepare for the thing you've asked for, even if there is no sign of it. And when you live this way, the universe has to respond. Not because you're begging, but because you've become aligned. Because you didn't come here to wait, you came here to remember that what you desire isn't a distant dream, it's a soul memory waiting to be lived again. And you are beginning that right now."